All right, Marfoogle News going live in 3, 2.
Is it the same one you think you wonder? I said I wonder, the flag above you. Is it the same one you think you wonder? I said I wonder.
All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam A.K. Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. We're going to talk about some pretty interesting stories right now, and we're going to get right into it. Of course, the internet is down in the Strip. Of course, they say in Gaza that they are cut off from the outside after IDF took down communication towers. Now, we've talked about this over the last couple of weeks. As far as for a week and a half straight, they told the people there to evacuate. Obviously, not everybody could. Not everybody could get out of there. But you do wonder, what is the truth coming out of the media as far as just anything that is communicated, especially across the world, what is accurate and what is not. Otherwise, you could imagine this would be quite a nightmare for anyone living there that isn't already living in rubble, not having any kind of communication and not being able to communicate that they are still there. The Northern Strip has been cut off from the rest of the world as Israeli strikes on main network lines resulted in a collapse of the internet and telephone services, reports the Palestinian Telecommunications Regulatory Authority. So again, they are communicating that the Northern Strip is cut off. So it does not say the entire place. This is a 25-mile place. The entire strip is 25 miles. So I don't know how much of that is down, but the places that they are striking, they have no way of communicating. Now, it does not specify whether or how well that cell phones are still working or if they are working at all, but I'm assuming if the towers are down, they're down. Remember, cell phones don't all go up to space and come back down. They go to cell phone towers, which if there's no power or communications, then those will be down as well. This is something that, obviously the world has been really infatuated and interested in the taking out of Charlie Kirk. People are pissed. People are mad. People are very angry at that. And it's taken up 95% of the internet right now. And not saying that's a bad thing, but there's a lot of really important stuff going on outside of that in geopolitics, which most people are either blissfully, just not aware of, or they are, being just caught up into the craziness of what is happening right now. It says a day into the IDF's new offensive into the Strip, the Israeli military's Arabic language spokesman Colonel Avaj Audrey announced on social media that the new route along the Gaza's coastline will open at noon on Wednesdays for residents heading south. He stated that it will remain open for 2 days. So they do this so that people have this time frame that they're supposed to get out. Now, I'm not going to get into the debate of right and wrong or the sides on this, because there's plenty of people even in our audience that are torn about whether what is going on is necessary or wanted or needed or right or wrong, whatever it may be. We're just communicating to you that this is going on, and this is going to cause problems, guaranteed. There's other countries that are absolutely furious at Israel for everything that they're doing in the strips, let alone something like this. Their argument is going to be that we gave them plenty of time to evacuate. The other side is going to say they can't evacuate. Where are they going to evacuate to? Where are they going to go? How are they going to go? It seems, in one way that they're basically supposed to go from north to south, and then when they start, tearing down the south, they're supposed to go north. It's a pretty crazy scenario how it's set up in the Strip, but they're not really able to leave. So, before we go into it any further, I do want to remind you guys, make sure to go check out EMP Shield. This is our recommendation to protect yourself against any kind of EMP strike, electromagnetic pulse attack from any of our adversaries. Right now, that is a worry because we are now involved in multiple wars, if not directly, indirectly. And this is something that, of course, would take down the foundation of our country. An EMP strike right in the middle would essentially terrorize our country. So if you do want to protect your generators, your cars, your trucks, your motorcycles, your boats, if you want to be able to travel after an EMP, and this also protects against a CME, a Carrington level event from the sun, then you want to have an EMP shield wired into it or attached to it. Most of them are very easy. The modem, that is the modem version on screen, that actually just plug and play. Again, marfooglenews.com/EMP. Make sure to use the code MARF. This is the same company and same technology used by agencies like DHS, DOD, of course, the DEMSO team helping protect the Texas grid, FBI, and many others. So if you want the same protection that they're quietly setting themselves up with, then I would highly recommend it. marfooglenews.com/EMP. Make sure to use that code MARF to get $50 off per device. Let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
All right, so why don't you talk about the interception? NATO is intercepting Russian Su-30s. Is that correct?
Yeah, so NATO jets intercepted 2 Russian Su-30 warplanes carrying supersonic missiles over the Baltic Sea. This is, as they say, Vladimir Putin continues to taunt the West with aggressive shows of Moscow's military strength. The Swedish Air Force announced that the JAS-39 Gripen fighters intercepted 2 Russian combat aircraft believed to be armed with the Kh-31 missiles. It's a supersonic anti-radiation weapon designed to destroy ships and air defense units. An 1120 signals intelligence aircraft was also identified in the mission and swiftly escorted away. The Swedish Air Force is always on alert, said the armed forces, et cetera, et cetera. But it also comes right after they're now saying it was 23 drones that went into Polish airspace. Right after Romania said they had drones hitting their airspace. Latvia reported a drone crashing in its airspace. And then Poland said a civilian drone flew over its presidential palace and government buildings. And they're describing that as also a provocation from Russia. There's actually a map or a graphic down below that sort of shows like all of these different incursions that have happened, all one right after another, from Latvia to 3-4 instances in Poland to, or the multiple instances in Poland and the one in Romania. And then, of course, all that happening while they're holding the war games there in Belarus.
Now, mainstream media, as far as what is being covered, there's many just in the world in general. It's so insane to see how many people are just not, in the last few years, especially since 2019, everyone is very skeptical of what they are being told. And now you see more and more people kind of jumping headfirst into some of the craziest theories I've ever seen, because we were lied to so badly and basically shown that we were lied to. And over time, it was like every single thing that people, in our community were saying ended up being true. And people really felt hurt by that. And I think that people slowly turned into just everybody is now willing to believe anything. And honestly, I don't blame them, because look at what has happened. The stuff that our community was talking about 10 years ago, that would happen in 5 years, it happened. All of these things happen. And right now, there is a legitimate World War III scenario playing out right in front of us, and people don't want to believe it because it is being covered worldwide. But at this point, you have to follow the money. You have to really look at what the leaders want, where they want to go, what agendas that they want done in a short amount of time. And the only way that you do drastic changes to everything, including constitutions and of course, countries, then you need to have a massive change. And a massive change comes very, very quickly with a world war. A world war is what has been building for years, for over a decade. And now it's here. I mean, this is it. We've got our countries now divided into this too, the heads versus tails. And I'm sure you can guess who I think is tails. So with all of these incursions, with all of these things happening, it's very easy for our community to say, it's nothing. But this time it's not. And I hope that in 2 years people will be like, see, nothing happened and there was never a war. But I don't think that that's going to happen. And unfortunately, when this does happen, this isn't anything I want. It's going to be bad. And I think that everybody's going to be caught off guard. And I mean everybody, not you guys, but most of our friends and family members we've been telling for years to try to stock up on things. They're going to be woefully surprised. And then the Air Force drama. This is pretty nuts. When you think about it, you have Air Force One and a Spirit's airline plane essentially heading towards each other. And what happened apparently is they were talking to the Spirit's flight 1300 and saying, hey, what's going on? Saying, I'm sure you can see who it is. keep an eye out for him. He's white and blue, saying, hey, you see Air Force One, hey, what are you doing? And it says, increasingly irate, it then repeats the instruction and says, I've got to talk to you twice every time before reiterating, pay attention, get off your iPad. Now, Dex and I were talking about this before. Dex, you said that you would guess that they have iPads. Most have a tablet or something that when they're sitting on a 16-hour flight, they have that they have an iPad or a tablet watching movies or sitting there with it on autopilot. And they also have software that might be downloaded on there that would be crucial to navigating or to planes, right? Because I was wondering, like, why would he say iPad?
It's actually very common. They use iPads or similar tablets, but mostly iPads as part of their electronic flight bags or EFBs. The devices have largely replaced traditional paper-based flight materials since the FAA began approving their use in 2011. So they store digital charts, approach plates, manuals, weather data, all sorts of other things, as well as can probably entertain them while they're sitting in autopilot, killing a few hours waiting on their destination to approach.
So you've got him essentially saying, get off your phone, buddy. Like, what are you doing? I'm over here, the president, and this could have ended up really, really bad. I mean, if you think about how many times that the president has had his life in duress, or at least in the last couple years, this is something that we could have been looking at a very different headline. What was going on here. And it also made me think about some of the previous stories. And this is something that I thought about. Dex, I don't remember if you remember, but there were several stories lately where the pilot and the air traffic control said that they heard two totally different things. Where there was a couple very close calls on the runway, and the gentleman said, I didn't hear that on my end. And then the air traffic controller says he did. And especially after that, the plane crashed into the helicopter. What was that? Was that in New York? Or was that Chicago? Where was that at? That into the military helicopter? DC. Even better, right? Or even worse. So you had that incident. You had several where the pilot said, hey, I didn't hear that. And I just wonder if the pilot is going to comment and say, hey, I didn't hear him the first time, or I didn't hear him half the time. And the reason why this is important is somebody could be fiddling with communications. And that's what I wonder. One of you may be a pilot or air traffic controller and go, it's you can't tamper with these things and it's absolutely secure or whatever. I don't know, but I'm just taking a blind guess here. Could they be hacked? Could there be something that could mess them up? Could there be jamming of some sort that could stop? Because if you were trying to take out a president, if you had access to some of these systems, you could see where the planes could come in contact, stop the communication from the tower, mess up the plane systems, and then have them crash. It would look like an accident. Just saying. Dex, go ahead.
Right. Well, and the other thing is a lot of times Air Force One is escorted. Not all the time. Sometimes domestically it doesn't need to be. It depends on the threat situation. But this is an international flight for President Trump. He was flying to the UK, and almost on all international flights, they are usually escorted with jets in U.S. airspace until it reaches international boundaries where an allied nation or other Air Force might provide additional protection if needed. So that said, this could have turned into a way worse situation where one of our fighter jets might have had to take out a civilian aircraft if the guy, failed to pay attention, right?
Yeah, think about that too. It's kind of like one of the scenarios where I was thinking about how they train the Teslas, right? The debate about where you have a self-driving car and you have the age-old question, there's 5 people on a sidewalk or there's one person in the street. Do you swerve? You have to hit one of the groups. Which one do you hit? Do you hit the one person or do you swerve to hit the 5, right? Most people would say the one, but there is no right answer. For this, it's saving the president, but it's taking out 330 people. Imagine a scenario where you would be put into that kind of thing. And Dex, wouldn't they have to take out the 330 people if it was going to take out the president?
Yes, they would not.
Isn't that crazy?
Not allow that plane to hit if they're escorted. But if they're not being escorted, then it's up to the pilot of Air Force One if he sees it and is able to maneuver.
Well, either way, it is kind of insane that the value of that one man would they would take out 1,000 if they had to protect that one person. And I understand it. It's just, it is kind of crazy. Because think about if something ever happened like that. And then, Dex, do you want to talk about the laser system and this new iron beam? This is something, I'll give you my opinion in a second here, but do you want to go in on that too?
Okay, so we've talked about this iron beam, as they call it, sort of an addition to the Iron Dome. They've talked about having it, they want to build it, they want to get it up. Lots of different companies are making it, are making a variation of it, basically energy weapons that can take down, drones, missiles, ICBMs, anything for that matter. Well, they've now announced that it's fully operational and it's launched, it's deployed. So they're one of the first. We've not the first to have it. We've had it, we've tested it, but they're operational. They're saying it is now operational. And the reason that's a big deal is, they're spending, $1 million on a flying arrow interceptor, or, tens of thousands of dollars on, the Iron Dome interceptors, which are smaller missiles. But firing this laser doesn't cost near that much. It's just energy. It's just electricity, and it's a fraction of the amount. They can have unlimited supply as long as they have power. And they have them where they have a large version with a very wide beam, and then they have a mobile version that has a smaller beam that uses less power, but it can be mounted on a truck, so they can make it mobile and move that thing around to multiple locations as opposed to a fixed location.
Now, Nathan Wood says BAE had one long ago. Now, they've had lasers. My sister's ex-boyfriend worked on one for Boeing they're in the development. We're talking about, and also they have different kinds of lasers. They have ship-mounted ones that are actually in the U.S. Navy already, and some of them are still kind of somewhat top secret as far as what their capabilities are. They've tested. We've seen this. But this is one of its capability to be able to take out the things that it can, possible missiles, possible drones, possible things like this. This is the first country to have this out and about and on the field actually working. Now, here's where this other thing comes in, because this is something where you look at Iran versus Israel. Iran sends 300 missiles and 200 drones. You say they send 1,000 in True Promise 3. If True Promise 3 is 3 or 4 years down the road and they've got 50,000 of these or 50 of them, and they are defending the entire country, this is much, much cheaper to defend. They will continue to have the rockets. They'll have all of these things, Iron Dome, David Sling, the Arrow system in Israel. But if they have a bunch of these, Iran is going to be, basically throwing eggs at a brick wall if they do that. So my point is, if they have a system like this, and if they mass produce this, if it is functional, as it is functional as they say it is, then they will be invincible if they have a ton of these, and the Arrow, and David Sling, and the Iron Dome. So you would think, as a strategic point of view from Iran, they would want to strike Israel before they have a ton of these, because these don't have $1 million missile every time they knock it down. Like they said in this, that this is compared to, tens and tens of thousands of shekels compared to the price of turning a light on. Now, very expensive light. That's what Dex and I were talking about. Like, this has got to be a lot of power, but it's a short-lived burst, right? So they said comparatively, it is nothing. The energy that this takes is absolutely nothing compared to the money it takes to actually fire some of these missiles. So that would put a timeline. That would be putting a rush on Iran to do True Promise 3 or to strike before they get more of these operational. I don't know how many they have right now, but I think it's one or two that are actually operational right now. Bones and Tubbs, hey, it's awesome to see you. Thank you for the super. Says, good evening, fam. Hope all is well. Well, thank you so much for your support. Ilea, thank you for modding. Again, thanks to all of the mods in the chat. Thank you guys. I hope you guys follow us over to Marfoogle TV because we have an incredible show tonight. We're going to be talking about everything that has just transpired in the last 24 hours. There is major military movement. There is a massive Greenland exercise. There is a huge set of stories coming out, including Jimmy Kimmel was canceled. He essentially bit the dust. His show is getting indefinitely canceled for his Kirk comments. So we'll talk about all of that on the next show. Make sure to stay right there. You'll be ported over if you're watching the replay. All you have to do is click here. We'll see you in just a moment. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out.
You think you wonder? I said I wonder. The flag above you, is it the same one? You think you wonder? I said I wonder. I said I wonder. Is someone taking over under the gold?